Welcome to another video. This time talking about collapsing hotbars again, that I already talked about 2 years ago, but I think the video lacks some quality and clarity, so let's revisit that topic and get back into the theory behind it and how you can set it up for yourself. First of all, what are collapsing hotbars? Collapsing hotbars basically mean you have some sort of macro or idea or trick to open up with one button another hotbar, and on this hotbar you kinda have some sort of subcategories. For example, DPS jobs, tanks, healers. You can switch between them by just clicking on any individual button here. For example, you can switch from Dark Knight to Summoner or whatever you want. You can also use your crafting jobs, or you can use some commands for your chocobo, hunting stuff, duty stuff, teleportation stuff, all that stuff that you need for your daily usage, some greeting stuff or emotions, whatever. You can also use single keys like advanced combat tracker reset or toggling on and off the duty here, and everything that you need, for example. First of all, I highly recommend to back up your settings, your UI and interface files by just going to the client, clicking on settings and go to that backup feature. This will allow you to set up a file, and on this file you can just save all the macros, all the UI settings, character configuration settings, all that is bound to your character and your UI specifically. So make sure to back this up before messing around with your UI, because this kinda heavily, changes the appearance of it. Okay, after that is secured, make sure to work this off on a second HUD. You can also make a macro found in the description to switch between these HUDs, but just simply go into your HUD layout and switch between the HUD you're using. I'm normally using the HUD 3, as you can see, but we're now switching to HUD 2 to configure all that stuff, for example. Okay, so when this has been done, you can see we have this arrow shift spacebar on our hotbar 10, which then is very, very important and the baseline to start into the collapsing hotbars. This will open up this little hotbar here where you have the categories, and these categories will open up the subcategories, for example. And to make this happen and make this possible, you start going into your character configurations, and here I advise you to do two things. First of all, uncheck the box hide unassigned slots for when you're working on this topic, because then you can also see the unassigned slots on the hotbars that you're not having any skills on right now, and this is helpful to see where your hotbars are actually on your screen. Then go to sharing, and here you ultimately want to check the boxes hotbar 9 and 10 to be shared. That is important for making use of this whole idea of the collapsing hotbars, and will allow us to get this done to the hotbar 10, which is this one, and hotbar 9, which is this one. Just do that. Okay, then the baseline macro for this, which is on my hotbar 10, this is just the macro that we're using, and that is super important to get this started, which looks like the following. You just copy this button, this macro here. This will just open up hotbar 9 and toggle it off. So if you click this once, it opens it up. If you click it twice, it will close it up. This wait functionality here, on the other hand, will automatically close the hotbar after 7 seconds when you haven't clicked anything here. Okay, so on this category list, we have another set of macros that you can see, for example, that look like the following. I will focus on the DPS one, which is this one here, and this is actually doing the whole magic, the whole trick. This will just copy the current content, the actual content of your Arcanist 4, as you can see here. Arcanist 4, the content of the hotbar Arcanist 4 hotbar to your current 8, which is this hotbar here. This is 8, this is 9, this is 10. And how can we actually get there? Because we're not playing an Arcanist, and that's actually the trick, and that helps us in performing these collapsing hotbars. We go into our Summoner, in this case, if you haven't leveled up a summoner, you can choose any other job. You just have to remove the job crystal. So you go into your summoner, remove the job crystal like this, and you become an arcanist. And here you can already see I haven't bound any abilities here because we're not using them, because we don't use an arcanist. You can do this for the rogue, you can do this for archer, whatever base class you can find. Of course, you can't do this for red mage, samurai, and all the jobs that start as a job already, but for those that have a base class, so to say the starter classes. So in there, you go back into your HUD layout and get an overview and impression of which hotbar we're talking about. So for example, we are having the hotbar 7 right here, which is having sort of the professions as icons, as buttons that you can change from here. After that, you have hotbar 6 with the healers on the hotbar, hotbar 5 with tanks and the chocobo saddle, which is just for testing, and hotbar 4 with all the DPS jobs on here. So, to explain what the macro actually does, I can show you how we change that with the chocobo saddleback. Going back into the macros, as you can see, this will copy Arcanist, which we are right now, Arcanist hotbar 4, which is this one here, to the current 8. That means clicking on this macro, this is 8. So it copies this content onto your current 8. And of course, in the same way it works on healers, we have Arcanist 6, which is this one, and as soon as we click on the button, it will copy the content of this Arcanist hotbar 6 onto the current 8. And this will just allow us to use anything we want by just assigning skills, icons, whatever you want to these hotbars. For example, if I'm going here and I'm just using the character onto my healer setup, for example, I'm putting this here, this will just have been changed automatically, but because the macro works it off in the way that you're using it at clicking it. So you're opening up the category bar, you go to healers, and this will just click this macro. And you can see we already have character in here, so you can open up your character screen, whatever. And as soon as you remove that, it will automatically just be removed here as well. Just make sure to not move it in here, because otherwise, as you can see, now if I'm opening up this one, it will have changed again, because it copies the fresh Arcanist 6. It only copies the content and the info it gets on this hotbar here, not the one that you're using, because it's always, every time it's just copying, it's an active command, so to say. So it copies this one to this one. Every time you change anything, it will have the default settings that are being found here. So we change that, it closes, and as we open it, it's still the default of this one. So if you want to change anything, you have to do this here. So for example, we don't want this chocobo saddleback on the tank list, so removing this from here doesn't make sense, because it's in the code, in the macro itself, it's here. So if you're opening up the macro again, it's still there. But if you remove it from here, it will have been affected and will change the appearance of this one. So in this way, you can set it up in any way you want. You just have to work off this specific button here, which is the macro, and assign the hotbars in the way you like them. For example, the professions here, this is hotbar Arcanist 7, which is this one, and it will copy it to current 8. It's very simple. You just have to realize what we're doing there. The same, I can show you the same in another job, another class, for example, to make it clear again. So we're opening up the ninja, for example. Then we're moving the job crystal, and voila, here we go for the rogue. As you can see, we're having the rogue hotbars now, and we go into the setting, and you can see right here, I think it should be something like this, the facepalm emote, which is using this button here, and this will open up this hotbar, which is the Rogue 5 hotbar, and copies it to the current 8, which is always this one. So in the same way, this works for the other macro. Let me show, it should be this one here, the cheers of greets, opening up, use the greets, and it will copy this one to this file here. If I remove something like cheer, for example, you can directly see it will have changed here. It will have this free spot, and if I return with this macro, it will have being added again. And that's the whole thing, how it works. And yeah, just copy this one into your macro setup, but make sure that you are using the specific line that you are actually using. So for example, if you don't have leveled up a ninja yet and you can't switch back to rogue, you have to do this for conjurer, for example, or thaumaturge, whatever. Always choose the base job, the short abbreviation for the base job, the base class, and then use the base class's hotbar setup to make your collapsing hotbars with these macros. Start with this one, that will open up your category hotbar where you put the macros that you're configuring by setting hotbars for your base classes. Okay, that's it for collapsing hotbars, but I guess that some of you want to know how I'm using these very beautiful job crystals. Shout out to Macy again, who brought up this idea. They are looking so much better than the base symbols. For example, if I'm opening up the Dark Knight symbol, the base one, it would look like the following, like this one. No, this is Warrior. Oh, sorry, Dark Knight. Yeah, it's cool, but this one can show the Warrior as well. These look way cooler, right? So to make them work, there's actually one simple method, and you just need another macro here. And this macro just takes your baseline set that will change your class to that setting, or to that gear setting setup that you have configured in here, the gear set list. But it will just apply the different symbol, the different icon here. But you have to configure that for yourself again, because as you can see, this GS gear set change 1 means it will choose gear set 1 when I click this macro, this button. So if your gear set 1 is not Dark Knight but Paladin, for example, you have to change that. You have to adjust that and say, okay, Dark Knight in my case, or Paladin in my case, is 3, and I want a Paladin here. Then it will change to your Paladin instead. So make sure to assign the numbers here with the gear set number you have. So in my case, I want Dark Knight, so I need to adjust this term here, this number, to gear set 1. Then it will open up the Dark Knight. And that's basically it. It's super simple. I will post all the macros here. Just make sure to adjust and rearrange these settings. I'm not sure if I just clear all these settings so that you can actually use them when you're not having set this up for yourself. Or you can just go to the RNG factor. Maybe some of them are already right for your interface as well. But yeah, you can find all of these macros in the description in a document, text document, so just copy them in the way you need them. Make sure to follow this one as the baseline, and if you set up everything correctly, you can easily just return to your usual hot layout here, and you can see that it works wonderfully, and you have a beautiful interface with much space and not so much cluttered UI and spells and interface abilities, icons, whatever. And this is really, really beautiful. And to max this, I already always toggle this off because I have bound this to a key binding. So it's invisible right now. It just toggles it when I'm pressing Shift plus spacebar, and I can always click through all of them. If you finish this completely, make sure, it's personal preference of course, but make sure usually to hide unassigned slots, so that will not, that these unassigned slots won't be opened up here. As you can see, we have no unassigned slots being displayed. Okay, that's it. I hope this is clearer than the last time. Make sure if anything doesn't work for you or the macros don't work properly in any point, please tell me in the comment section. I will try to help you or try to fix that manually and correct macros if they're wrong or anything like that. A shout out to Mace again. Thank you for bringing me up to this idea. It's super nice. I think I cannot live without it. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep loving Final Fantasy.